Good evening. This is Doc Severson for the Theo Night Report for Tuesday, November 8th, and we're just a couple of hours away from election results starting to roll in. The markets were initially kind of flat today as the cash session opened up, and then it wasn't too long before we saw about a 23 handle rally here. I mean, just a huge move that came in based on a rumor, of course. Certainty coming into the market, but we gave up quite a bit of that near the end today. So a little bit of weakness showing here at the tape. The overall net was only 5.5 points for the day on the S&P. So the story here continues to be the expected move in the S&P options here. So this is really the big story and what we have to watch for, because right now the market is still pricing in a tremendous amount of risk. You can see for options that are expiring tomorrow, right now is a plus minus 49 point move on the S&Ps. If I go out to the Russell is showing for tomorrow, in this case for 11 November, which is in 3 days, this is showing a plus minus 34 point move. And the NDX here is showing a plus minus 123 point move. Now, if we map those values over to the chart, we'll start out with the S&P here. We've got a range from about 2190 at the top side. So 2190, and this is the S&P cash index and not necessarily the futures. They're going to be off by just a little bit in terms of the cost to carry, and down to 2090, right? So you can see how much price range we're pricing in, we're factoring just for tomorrow. So most of this will occur more than likely tonight during the futures session. So definitely watch the S&P futures tonight as the election results come in. Okay, so you can see that clearly this is showing anywhere from a range of the recent highs, very close to the recent highs, to the recent lows that we've seen. A big range here. Now let's go over to the Russell, and we'll do the same thing to the Russell. So we've got a range that's going to go anywhere, and this is over the next couple of days. And so we've got about 1230 to the upside, down to about 1161. So not quite the same range that we're seeing here, not quite as violent. And this is unusual for the Russell. And lastly, let's look at the NDX. And the NDX is going to be the largest 100 of the NASDAQ composite. And we've got a range in this case of plus minus 123. So we have a high water mark of about 49.27. So this is definitely going to put us up into new highs if this is the case. And a low water mark of about 46 and change. So you can see how volatile that the NASDAQ 100 is going to be based on the results of the election. So again, these are expected moves that are over the next day to 2 days, depending on which instrument that we're looking at. Now, if you want to watch these tonight while the election results come in, how can you view these? How can you stay up on top of these values? Okay, because not everybody that's out there listening to this is really in tune with what the futures are or how to use them. So let's talk about this for a second. Obviously, the easiest way that you can do this is probably through some type of a mobile app, because mobile apps are optimized for doing this sort of thing. But one thing that you can do is you can go over here to, in this case for thinkorswim, you can pull up the futures watch list and look for 3 tickers in particular. First one is going to be the /ES. So the ES is going to be the S&P 500. This is the one I would look at first and get your initial read off of the S&P 500. So right now, again, it's up about 7 points. It's up about 7 points. And so use that as a reference as we get into the after hours session here. And then for the Russell, if you want to look at the TF, Tango Foxtrot here, is the Russell futures. Again, up almost just over a point right now, just as a reference. And this is about an hour after the market has closed. And then we can also look at the NASDAQ futures, which is going to be the NQ. So the NQ is the NASDAQ E-mini. and right now sitting at about plus 29. So you can use these numbers as a reference to find out what's going on. You can always certainly go over to the charts and pull up some type of an intraday chart. So in other words, this is a tick chart here. You can see just an intraday tick chart, and you can see live values on here, looking at the ES or the TF here or the NQ. So these are going to be the three most popular, the three most relevant tickers that we can look at. I mean, there's certainly other ones that we can look at, such as crude oil, things like that. So regardless of which method that you use or how you end up monitoring tonight, or perhaps you're just going to wait until tomorrow morning to see what happens, wake up, read the newspaper, watch the TV reports, and then look over at the futures to see what the reaction is. But the one comment that I'd like to make, and this is something I talked about in the chat room today, was you got to make up your mind right now that it doesn't matter who wins, that no one person or no one administration is going to change your outcome and your future, your destiny for what you intend to do with this. So don't be a victim of circumstance. Don't look back and say, well, I would have done better if X had been elected or Y had been elected. It really doesn't matter. A good trader will find ways to find edge regardless of the challenges to the situations that are out there. Be the one that solves the problem, finds the edge, and gets the profits. Now, just a quick word about what we do after tomorrow. So once the election results are known, and this is assuming that we do have a clear and concise result from this. If we do not, then we are going to have some fun. If there is any debate in terms of what the election results are, if there's anything that's inconclusive about the election results, and that could be not only the presidential, but also the down ballot for some of the House and Senate seats, anything in there that causes uncertainty, the market will not react well to that. And we could have weeks, if not months, of very volatile tape action. So once we sit back and understand what the market wants from this, any kind of very dramatic reaction, we will probably end up fading that move initially. So we'll know the answer to that more than likely by tomorrow, and then we'll be back in business. So thanks for listening to our report tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.